Good morning and welcome to Trends in the Papers on 98.3 Mainland FM, the sound of Lagos. I trust we had an amazing weekend. Well, I'm hoping that we had an amazing weekend because, of course, the streets are saying a lot of things, and I don't know what you are saying to yourself, but I really, really hope that in the midst of it all, that you stay positive. All right, it's time for Trends in the Papers, where we'll be looking through the major stories on the front pages of our dailies, looking at the major trending stories. And over the weekend, of course, we didn't have trends in the papers, so we thought felt it a duty of ours to ensure that you stay up to speed as regards what trended over the weekend. And I'm going to be doing that shortly. My name is OMOMBOLA SANDRA, and I'll be having FUAD SAHEED also joining in via the phone line in a bit. But before then, over the weekend, we had quite a number of stories trending. Of course, the conversation on the first week of President Bola Tinubu's administration took center stage. I have here Atiku, Uzodinma, others differ on subsidy removal. I also have here 10th National Assembly. Tinubu meets opposition lawmakers on 5th of June, which is today. Ignore Akeredolu's death rumor. He's alive, says Ondo State government. That was another very tricky story over the weekend. Had to put some calls through and all. But we'll see, as time goes on, what exactly is the true picture of things. Also have here security foils attack on Kogi governor's convoy, oil theft, another leakage Tinubu must block. New governors groan under heavy debts. Kano state governor begins demolition of houses approved by Ganduje. This was another interesting story that caused some sort of controversy, but the story is that these houses were built on government land, on government property, hence the demolition. But then people are asking the question, should it have just gone straight into demolition or given them some time, to put themselves together and then demolish? But that's another conversation for another day. We also have here, Buhari submits asset declaration form, shows zero debts. Tinubu appoints Akume as SGF, Bajabi Amila as Chief of Staff, Hadeja, Deputy Chief of Staff. This was another, serious story that is still trending as now. I also have APC governors back federal government as NLC threatens strike over subsidy removal. Federal government scraps petroleum equalization fund and national transport allowance. Minimum wage must reflect reality, says Tinubu. Are we looking at an increase from 30,000? That's an interesting one. Probe missing $2.1 billion and 3.1 trillion naira subsidy payment or face legal charges, Serap tells Tinubu. Okay. And then finally we have Matawale purchased 2.97 billion naira vehicles. None is in government house. And that is coming from the current Zamfara State Governor, Dauda Lawal, speaking as regards the former Zamfara State Governor, Bello Matawale. Those were the major trending stories over the weekend. Thank you very much to Sage Papalola for putting it together. All right, let's move on now to the major trending stories for today, the 5th of June 2023. It's a beautiful Monday, the very first in the month of June, as we look to the end of a quarter, the end of the first half of the year, and supposedly the end of the subsidy regime. But then interesting days ahead. I hope that you listened to Political Roundtable yesterday. It was quite an eye-opener, ear-opener, and heart-opener. I hope I'm permitted to say that. All right, because, a lot of revelation. We had Adeola Yusuf, who's an expert in the oil and gas sector and, in the energy sector generally. And he broke a lot of things down. It was quite, a very tense atmosphere, but we're able to get all of the cards on the table. What's the way forward as regards this oil subsidy removal, and what's the way forward for Nigerians in Nigeria? Good morning, FUAD.
Good morning, Sandra. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you very much. I'm optimistic. I'm positive.
We have no choice now. What do we do?
Oh, we don't? Oh, I didn't know we had no choice. I just chose
we have no
to
choice. What's the choice?
All right, let's go on to the major trending story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. This is Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Auto gas stalls as NNPC marketers bicker over 500 billion naira debt. Protracted fuel cost. Darkness looms as electricity workers may shut down national grid. There's a lot to pick from this story, FUAD, but before, we pick anything from it says here in this particular report, auto gas stores and NNPC and marketers bicker over 500 billion naira debt. What is that all about?
You should remember that I think last year we revealed the story on this auto gas project. And that some particular marketers were being mobilized to begin to put facilities in place for the auto gas project, which is basically to have some vehicles converted to use of gas, natural gas. So basically, I think some marketers had gone to, take some loan facilities to put some of these facilities in place, and an agreement with the NNPC. But unfortunately, nothing has happened. It's just a proposal in paper. Implementation has been completely faulty or non-existent. So it is things I would keep saying, yeah.
But okay, I totally understand where you are at. However, take us through this petroleum equalization scheme and how the government got into this 500 billion naira purported debt under that paused petroleum equalization scheme.
Well, you see, the problem is this. There are too many things in that story from the Guardian newspaper. There are claims by marketers that, look, they had actually made some payments for petrol supply to the NNPC, that they made an advance payment to the NNPC for petrol supply, I think for 6 months or so, and that as it is, they've not even been able to get any supply.
Okay.
And that they are owing them some money. If you check that story very well, there were advance payments made to the NNPC by marketers for supply of PMS. And that's why they are even questioning the idea of the GMD of NNPC or the GCU of NNPC, as they want to call it, that there's a 4 billion liters available till the end of June. Well, what they are saying is that they paid ahead for this product, and that, look, they don't have any supply now. The NNPC is owing them. And the question again is that, look, do we really have this supply? Because what they are saying, if you look at that story, why is the NNPC telling the marketers to buy at the new price? Because again, there are questions about, if we say there's subsidy provision till the end of June, why already imposing a new price regime? Why not wait till June? Because the NNPC GMB was telling us that there's enough supply till the end of June. So why can't we keep the initial price regime till June, when officially we can begin to talk about a price regime? So there's a lot of shady information there that we need to really unravel. You check the story very well.
All right, just as FUAD has mentioned, going through the papers, you would see that it's clearly written there might be an obstruction of supply of petrol, because apparently there's an interesting, there's something interesting that's brewing between the NNPCL and marketers over undelivered 202.5 million liters of products in the last 8 months. And what we have is that the product was paid for when the ex-depot price was 183 naira per liter. And now we have the fact that the marketers who claim they have taken 37.05 billion naira loans with active interest when NNPCL asked them to pay additional money to claim their goods. By implication, this means that the market would need an additional 57.5 billion to claim the products they ordered at a combined price of 37 billion naira. This brought the total stock from the initial 37 to 97 billion, as each truck now sells for 21.03 million. This is actually interesting. It's a lot.
The question is, Sandra, if you look at it, the NNPC GMD was still telling us that there's enough stock. And if these people had actually made this order about 8 months ago, and you have not been supplying, so there's something shady. And that's the problem about the operations of the NNPC. As a sole importer of fuel into this country, there's a lot of sharp practices, unanswered questions, shady deals. So the extent now that marketers have made an order, you have not even been supplying them.
Okay, so basically, if I get what you are saying correctly now, is that fine, they paid for fuel, it was not delivered. And now that, fuel is at 467 or so, there about per liter, you are expecting something you paid for at 183 naira per liter. So there's a shortfall now on the side of the marketers who had to get loans to get those products, and it's difficult now for them to get it. So when NNPCL was promising that we have, enough stock, this stock that was supposed to come from marketers is what they were banking on. And so hence what it means, or does it mean that we actually do not have, or will have, but not up to what they had promised?
There are two things, Sandra. It's either we don't have that stock.
Okay.
What we're being told was just a pure lie. Or we have the stock, somebody's trying to rip us off, rip the marketers, or automatically rip Nigerians off. Because the question has always been that, look, as at the point we were changing these prices, why the hurry? Why not wait till the end of June? You see, from a lot of the revelations we got from Adiola Yusuf yesterday, Sandra, the reality is that a lot of the things the government have been telling us is just pure lie, Sandra. Because again, before President Tinubu came in, the initial impression we had was that the government was the one paying for subsidy. Until even Tinubu was told by the NNPCL that, look, from around 2022, I think middle 2022, the government has not been paying subsidy. So the NNPC that have been paying on behalf of the government.
Okay, now
to a point where they are now owing the NNPC 2.8 trillion naira.
No, okay.
So it means that whatever the government has been telling us is completely untrue.
All right, I'm going to take you back a bit now. When the GCEO of NNPCL, Mele Kyari, said that the country has over 4 billion liters of PMS in stock, I just want to ask a question because because of the monopolistic nature of the oil industry, where NNPCL is almost like the alpha and omega. Okay, so the question is, why can't NNPC, who has or who claims to have over 4 billion liters, why can't they give to the marketers at the old price?
That's the question, because they even made the order ahead, according to these marketers. Because again, look, people were blaming the marketers, saying, oh, why is it that immediately an announcement was made, oh, they already shut down their filling stations and all of that. And if you look at the chart we reviewed yesterday from the NNPCL, the same NNPC is even justifying the actions of the marketers, obviously out of guilt, that, oh, if they are made to begin to sell at the old price, you know what I'm saying, they will not be able to restock because they would have to buy at the new price. Now, what I said was that, look,
buy from who?
If you had an old stock at an old price, sell at that old price. When you are rebuying, you buy at the new price. When you get a bank guarantee or a loan or something, and then you sell at the new price. Because what is happening now is that there's an employment of a rip-off of Nigerians between the NNPC and the marketers. And that's why the marketers are bringing this to the table that, look, the NNPC is actually even owing them a lot of the stock they had ordered for months ago. And that's why we are saying that somebody needs to check the operations of the NNPC. There's a lot of shady practices, a lot of fraud going on at that level. And it is important that, look, as we are having this resolution from the government to remove subsidy, not minding the pains that other Nigerians will go through, can we also have that deliberate effort to begin to tear the books of the NNPC apart so that we can know what has happened to the Commonwealth?
Okay, now, so if we're going to put all of this together, basically what it means is that the marketers had paid for a certain, number of liters of fuel from the NNPCL when the petrol pump price was 183 naira per liter, and they have not been able to get the fuel from NNPCL, that the marketers now, and the marketers had gone on to, collect loans to purchase this fuel. And because of that now, that's why the marketers had to increase their own pump price to the amount that we have now. So at the end of the day, FUAD, are we saying, or is this report saying now that NNPCL is the major deciding factor of everything that we are going through now?
Exactly, because again, as it is till today, they are still the sole importer of refined fuel into the country. Although it is contracted out to all manner of people that we don't even know. Until the last issue of the dirty fuel that came into the country, before we got the revelation that there are about 323 contractors or so who helped the NNPC to bring fuel into the country. But as it stands today, Sandra, NNPCL is still the sole importer of refined fuel into the country. Now, these are a lot of questions. The last interview of the NNPC GCU or GGMB, as you want to call it, again, I have a lot of issues with what we even call it. The reality is that, look, it says that, look, according to the law, the NNPC should not be doing more than 30% of what we need as far as refined fuel is concerned. So if it knows that it was against the law to be the sole importer and that it cannot be doing more than 30%, why did they maintain the status quo? It means that some people were benefiting from an illegality knowingly without doing anything about it. And those are some of the things we are saying that, look, before we jump into this removal of subsidy, can we answer some of these pertinent questions? What amount of fuel do Nigerians consume daily? Because the reality is this, Sandra, we may not actually be subsidizing anything in reality. Because if we don't have closure, if we cannot have the exact figures of the liters of fuel we import into this country, it is because, again, I feel that, look, we have to be methodical about things. And that's why people are blaming the new president on why he already jumped into the subsidy issue without consultation and without finding closure to a lot of questions Nigerians have been asking. The NNPC does not have enough data. Remember that the last time Mele Kyari appeared before the House of Reps, he could not even present any meaningful data to them on a lot of the questions I was asking. And so we ask ourselves, yes, Nigerians are ready to suffer for the inefficiencies of government, but can we get closure to a lot of issues from the NNPC before we begin to treat Nigerians the way we are treating them now? A lot of issues are still pending that we need answers to from the NNPC.
FUAD, we also had some, you mentioned something earlier, and I'm going to take us back a bit to that particular story that we treated almost 2 years ago, I think 2021 or so, where we had the conversation on auto gas, and the president, the then president, Muhammadu Buhari, former president Muhammadu Buhari, promised that about 2 million vehicles were going to run on auto gas. And now the story we are getting is that that's one of the things that we should add to the administration's list of failed promises, due to the fact that the government couldn't pay the marketers. What is the way forward? Is that a dead and gone initiative, or is there something that this administration can still take advantage of?
A long list of promises from the immediate past government. Remember when they were celebrating this auto gas project, saying that about 2 million vehicles will be converted. This was going to help with subsidy removal. It was going to be a revolution in a way that Nigerians will now begin to use gas powered vehicles. I said, look, these are just statements in the books. I know that when it comes to implementing it properly, nothing would happen. And to a great extent, we have been vindicated. I am sure that not 10 cars have been converted to gas in the country. And I'm sure that, look, in the planning, in the execution, in a lot of consultancy, a lot of money would have been voted for that particular project. And yet we have nothing has been done. Those are small things that are saying that, look, even if we are going to remove subsidy, all of the plans the government has promised Nigerians about conversion of vehicles to gas, doing this and that, getting closure on the issue of fuel, amount of fuel we use in the country, can we see those problems first before jumping into the issue of subsidy removal? Sandra, the reality is that auto gas program. If you remember when we reviewed it, they said to convert one vehicle will cost about 250,000 naira. If you remember, that the entire conversion cost of one vehicle will be about. So if you ask yourself, how many Nigerians can afford 250,000 naira to convert their vehicle to gas? Let's even be practical about it. And that was about 2 years ago or a year ago. I'm sure the cost now would have been around 400,000 to convert one vehicle to gas. And then what about maintenance? What about the technology, the technical know-how, the understanding, maintenance, the safety issues? What about sensitization? Are Nigerians fully aware of the process, the procedure, and practice of auto gas vehicles? So it's just, you see, these people it's just when we ask the same question about our refineries, why our refineries are not working. Yesterday, I think Adela Isu was able to reveal that from 2013 till date, we spent over 11 trillion naira on turnaround maintenance of those refineries, and nothing has been done. So, like I said again, there's a deliberate action or inaction by people in government to ensure that this thing does not happen because of the corruption in the oil and gas system. And let me say this, Sandra. A lot of people have asked us, why was Dangote Refinery able to build a brand new refinery from scratch in 6 years, Sandra? It was because, number one, there was no issue of vested interest. It was taken as a business entity, run as a business entity. It was left in the hands of experts, technocrats who understand what to do. But yeah, what we have in the oil and gas sector, Sandra, is that we have a lot of square pegs in round holes. People who have no business being in business in the oil and gas sector, holding positions, milking the trade dry, and unfortunately, there's no willpower from the government to hold them accountable.
All right.
That's the situation we have in the oil and gas sector.
All right. Thank you very much. But one thing that I've been able to take out from this whole report is that I'm trying to have an understanding of why marketers used to purchase a truck of fuel, one truck of fuel for almost about 9 to 10 million naira, but now they have to purchase it for 21.03.
The new price regime.
The new price regime, 21. Now I'm coming back to the question of if NNPCL claims that we have billions of fuel liters in stock, why are they selling to the marketers at
so that is NNPCL is selling old stock at new price. They are old stock at new price.
New
the
price.
Marketers. That's what it is.
That's unfortunate. After the marketers are going to collect loan to buy this all right. More details on page 6. Oh, we didn't talk about the fact that electricity workers may shut down the national grid. That's another thing, another part of that particular story. So while the NLC is, speaking from one corner as regards Wednesday, we also have that a memo of the workers, that's the National Union of Electricity Workers, that was signed June 2nd by its General Secretary, Dominic Igwebike, reads, and I'm quoting, sequel to the Nigeria Labour Congress Emergency National Executive Council meeting held on June 2nd, 2023 at the Labour House, Abuja, over the sudden removal of fuel subsidy, which has brought untold hardship to Nigerians as well as increased inflation in the economy, the NLC has directed the nationwide withdrawal of services. Action will commence on Wednesday, June 7, 2023. So, National Union of Electricity Employees might withdraw their services in the midnight of Tuesday in compliance with. So, FUAD, you may be sleeping, though, and you just feel that the fan is no longer blowing you. So, they have off the national grid.
We are used to it. If the national grid can collapse 99 times in 8 years, so I'm sure a withdrawal of service by shutting the national grid would not really be a thing of surprise to Nigerians. Again, the Labour Congress is talking tough. Again, we've seen a lot of propaganda, again, to decimate the strength and the resolve of the Labour Congress. You have seen a lot of fake reports flying around. Some chapters of the Labour Congress have withdrawn from general consensus of the Labour Congress.
All right.
Reality is that, look, the Labour Congress has given a Wednesday deadline. And what they are saying, if you look at that report, is that, look, before they even go back to talking to government, the government should revert to status quo.
Thank you.
That's what they are saying.
More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We're still on trends in the papers, looking through trending stories on the front pages of our dailies, and you're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. Now, still on the front page of the Guardian, we have here NLC boycotts meeting as federal government and TUC seek options out of Wednesday's strike. That is also on page 6 of the Guardian. So the report is that the NLC was not at the meeting due to the fact that the last one they had, was there was no there seems to not be any positive or ended in a deadlock of some sort. So the TUC was that as Trade Union Congress and the federal government sat down and had meeting. But stories on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here why Tinubu has not appointed a spokesperson, and that is on page 3. So fresh facts have emerged yesterday on why President Bola Tinubu has not appointed an official spokesperson a week after assuming office. Investigation by The Guardian revealed that while the president is bent on changing the architecture of his media to reflect innovations he's bringing to the presidency, Some of his media aides have not agreed on the structure and job descriptions of some designations. Okay. Well, the conversation had been going on though. FUAD. I thought there was a lot of fanfare around Dele Alake, who was rumored to be favored to be the spokesperson of the president.
Well, there are unconfirmed reports that there's these reports, unconfirmed reports that he has been appointed as spokesperson to the president. But we also had some reports too, or unconfirmed stories out there that he rejected that particular position, claiming that he deserves something big and better for his contribution to the campaign of the APC and the president.
But he has been in acting capacity, though. He has been in acting capacity.
Well, people are saying acting, but I must say that every time Dele Alake comes out to speak on behalf of the president or the presidency, there's nothing official to it. But there's no official memos that even appointed him as the acting spokesperson. The last position we know of Dele Alake was that he was a member of the Presidential Campaign Council as a spokesperson. But as far as the presidency is concerned and President Bola Tinubu, there's no memo anywhere showing that he was appointed as acting spokesperson. So whenever he talks now, there's no official position to it. The information we have, although unconfirmed, is that look, he was offered that position as a spokesperson to the president. But he rejected, like I said, unconfirmed. He rejected it as he deserves something bigger and better. That in fact, what he wants is the Minister of Information. But there's no confirmation to that. But again, the reality is this. I think actually Bola Ahmed Tinubu is now saying that look, while campaigning or before getting into government, a different kettle of fish. Because I would think that these are some of the appointments that would have been easy for him to make. And now that he's taking time to, because the spokesperson is very, very important officially, for us to have somebody talking on behalf of the government. I would have thought that would have been one of the first appointments he would make.
Okay, I can barely hear you. The quality of net call has dropped, so you may need to move.
Is it better now?
Okay, thank you very much. All right, but then also on the okay, you were saying.
What I'm just saying is that one would have thought that the easiest appointment for him to make would have been his spokesperson, because again, this time we need somebody to begin to talk to Nigerians on an official capacity.
Okay,
and we don't have that yet.
All right. We also have on the front page of Guardian, it says here 7 days into second term, Sanwo-Olu yet to make appointments. Is this an issue for what? For a second term?
Maybe he's waiting for some. Maybe it's, there's always a tradition, whether allegedly or not, that commissioners of commissioners and appointees in Lagos State have to be ratified by body law. Now, Bodilon has moved to Abuja. Maybe that's the reason for the delay. I'm just saying maybe.
Bodilon is busy.
So I guess he already has a list, but maybe he's waiting for approval.
Okay, FUAD, thank you very much for moving an entire street in Lagos to Abuja. That's amazing. Oh, but I totally understand, because it should be recalled that when Sanwo-Olu was sworn in as the first-time governor in 2019. He, announced or appointed his SSG a day after, getting into office. So, which is probably why, there's some sort of curiosity. Let me put it that way, as to why he has not done so.
Bodilon was in Lagos then. Bodilon is in Abuja now. So maybe because people have always said that. Look,
FUAD,
yes.
We have heard you. We have heard you. Bodilon has moved to Abuja, so that may be an influence as to why we haven't heard. And the interesting thing is, if that is the case, Bodilon also has a lot of on his table. So
so you can see that if he submits his own list, it may take some time for them to attend to it, because there's a lot on the table now to attend to.
That's interesting. So helpful.
I'm just saying, sarcastically.
You said Bodilon. Everybody just moves on from that. Let's move on to the Punch newspaper. Thank you very much. This is Trends in the Papers, and you are listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. We're moving on to the Punch newspaper now, and the major headline there: subsidy. NLC shuns federal government meeting. Electricity workers back strike. And there are riders to that. NLC faults negotiation team. Lagos, Nasarawa, more state chapters join strike. TUC demands salary increase. Fuel importers seek equal access to forex. That's a lot to break down. Before we go into the second rider, just very quickly, we have here that the Nigeria Labour Congress on Sunday shunned a meeting that was called by the federal government to discuss, the removal, because the union insists that it would not hold any dialogue with the government unless a legitimate team was set up. So what do you think of this stance by the NLC, that the fact that there's no official appointment yet, so whoever is making any negotiation
they don't even know who they are talking
on
to.
behalf of the federal government cannot be trusted?
You know, I just said it now, that every time Dele Alake comes out to talk on this issue, he's talking at an unofficial capacity. We don't know who he is. The last time he held any position was as a party man, speaking for the APC and the Presidential Campaign Council of the APC. As it is now, he holds no official position. So I understand where the NLC is coming from. Look, you are talking to somebody. Let us say you will have an agreement with this team. Who are they? Who are they speaking for? On what official capacity are they talking to us?
So FUAD.
And that's why it's important for us to begin to ask questions again about the policy direction of this new government. Hope we are not going to have a replication of what we had for 8 years in the Buhari government.
You know, I was
because there are key appointments. Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yes, I was going to ask before you move into key appointments now. Thank you very much, because that's the exact path that I was also towing. As regards, major decisions, that has to do with especially the oil industry that has now been, in deep controversy for a while now. One would think that by now there should be a spokesperson of the federal, an official spokesperson of the federal government, Minister of Petroleum, and some other people who should be SSA, the special advisor and all of that, who should be having conversations with major stakeholders in the industry. But as of now, we're only hearing from Mele Kyari and, as you have mentioned, unofficial spokesperson Dele Alake. So this delay in appointments, yes, I'm with you. Carry on, please.
No, that's why people are saying that, why the rush? We talked about information management. We talked about being procedural and methodical about taking government decisions. And that's why people are saying, why the rush? Why the rush? Because one would think that, look, before such an important decision like that is taken, there will be a think tank of the government who would have had key appointments, an economic team, sitting down to, number one, not only sensitize Nigerians, but be ready to engage organized labor on the decisions of government and the plans of the government. Now we have nobody to talk to the labor in an official capacity. And that's why you see that Ali Ndume, the senator from Borno State, is now telling the president to meet with the labor himself. So again, it is important that we tell the supporters
so FUAD, this federal government that met with TUC, who is this or who are this federal government? Who are the people? When they said the federal government met with TUC, who are they? What?
Okay, let me tell you. At least from the videos and pictures and reports we have, you have the team include Dele Alake.
Okay.
You have Adams Oshiomhole, who is a senator elect.
How? Oh, FUAD.
You understand? So, yes, I'm with you.
I'm with you. Please go on.
Sorry?
I'm with you. Go on. I just.
So you have Dele Alake as part of the team. You have Adams Oshiomhole, who is also part of the team.
Who's the
and
senator
a number
elect?
of persons who don't have any official position in government now as we speak. And so it is important for Labour to say that, look, whatever agreement we reach with these people is just an agreement in paper. It doesn't have any official capacity to talk on behalf of the government.
Okay. And
unfortunately, even the president is not even on the table himself. Maybe that would have solved the problem. That the president is talking to us directly.
Okay. Well,
so that's why we are saying that, look, we need to be procedural. We need to be methodical in the way we handle government, processes. And it is missing here.
All right, thank you very much. I have this question here before we move on to the second rider of the story. Please, very, very quickly, we don't have so much time. It says here that the Deputy President of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Gabriel Idahosa, says that the NLC is short-sighted due to the fact that they are looking at immediate pain and immediate gain, and they are not looking at the best interest of their own workers. Do you think that the NLC should maybe sub-pedal a bit on the planned strike, maybe give the federal government maybe 2 weeks or a month and see how things would turn out before? Do you think it was quick action for the NLC to just decide to go on strike?
Okay, now let's ask ourselves. If you say the NLC is short-sighted, or we are saying that, oh, they should soft pedal, it's the same thing we are telling ordinary Nigerians who are complaining about this removal of subsidy and the untold hardship it's going to bring to them. The question is, what is the government putting on the table now? You know, if you say, okay, somebody should calm down, try to understand with government, endure, fine, we agree. But that will be dependent on what the government is telling Nigerians. Sandra, what is the government telling Nigerians about this removal of subsidy now? On what they are going to do? What are the plans? And the two questions will be, what are they going to bring to the table for ordinary Nigerians who are really suffering? What we have been hearing are just promises, and promises. In fact, it's 1 week now that we got a new president. And the only thing we had from him was that subsidy is gone. That has now left to a price regime as far as PMS is concerned. As the same presidency told Nigerians in the last 1 week what they are going to do going forward. Have you heard anything from them? Because the only thing you hear is that people should understand subsidy is a fraud. It has to go. Fine, we agree on that. But has the government brought anything to the table? And therefore, people are saying that, oh, the NLC, TUC is about increment of... I keep saying it. If it's TUC an increment in salary for its own workers, what about Nigerians who are not civil servants? Who takes care of them? So the reality is that, look, the government has not even put anything on the table for anybody to begin to understand with it, as far as this level of subsidy is concerned. And those are the big issues here. Nobody is short-sighted about anything. Yesterday, Adela Isu revealed to us, Sandra, that all of that statement about, oh, whatever money we save from subsidy, we're going to put it into other things, is just mere fallacy. Because the reality is that there's even no money to save, because we have been borrowing. And if we must even take the words of the NNPC for it, they have also told us that, look, we are even owing them 2.8 trillion naira. So if we are running a budget of 11 trillion deficit, we are heavily indebted to all manner of foreign creditors. And there's no revenue. There's revenue shortfall. We are not even able to produce our quota, our OPEC quota, as we speak. Angola is even doing better than us in terms of oil production. So where would the money come from to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians? Maybe we didn't know. That was why the last government was trying to even get $800 million loan from the World Bank. Sandra, there's no money anywhere to alleviate any suffering. And I'm even waiting to see where the government will get money from, pay increment in salary. Where's the money going to come from?
Speaking of pay salary, the TUC is demanding salary increment to measure up to the
where will the money come from?
One thing I got from the political roundtable conversation yesterday was the fact that the the removal of subsidy is not supposed to add any money to our coffers, but to just stop us from borrowing. We won't need to borrow anymore. Okay.
But we're not saving anything.
But we're not saving anything. Yes, that's basically what I got from the conversation yesterday. But then more details of this conversation on pages 2 and 25, where the NLC faults negotiation team. Lagos, Nasarawa, more states chapters join strike. TUC demands salary increase. Fuel importers seek equal access to forex.
That's also very important, Sandra.
Yes,
because if you say you are opening up the sector, if you say you are opening up the sector,
get into that, because during the last meeting that the TUC had, in attendance was the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. All right. So the conversation as regards, making forex available, because, in a revelation in recent times, a certain person, or it was revealed that forex was made available for a certain person and all. So all about nepotism, in the oil sector as regards
access to forex.
Access to forex.
You see, because the thing is this: oh, we're going to give more license to people to bring in petrol and all of that to bring refined fuel from anywhere in the world. But the reality is that look, for them to even import this product, you have to create a level playing field. And one of the level playing grounds you have to create is for them to have equal access to forex. If we begin to politicize access to forex, then nothing will change. So it now means that some people will be given that advantage and they will monopolize the market again. So we'll go back to square one. And that's why we are saying, look, for us to do away with this idea of forex and importation of fuel, why can't we be so intentional and deliberate about fixing our refineries? You know, we said it yesterday when Adiola Yusuf was explaining that, look, the 4 refineries that we have in Nigeria have the capacity to refine 455,000 barrels of crude oil a day. And that, look, if we are able to do that, you know, the intention of our founding fathers who built those refineries was that if there was any problem in the global oil price, we will not be affected by it because we own the crude, we are refining locally. We can even price with Naira. We don't have to price in dollars. So we do away with this idea of forex because what we have now, Sandra, in reality is that, look, and that was why I was asking you yesterday, if the price of this thing will still go up. And I can tell you that 100%, we have not seen the end of price increase as far as fuel is concerned, if we are still importing. Because if anything happens to forex, and there's a glitch in oil price globally, the price of PMS will still rise. Until we are able to ensure we refine locally, that's where we can guarantee stability in pricing as far as PMS is concerned. And so I'm wondering why we have not been intentional about fixing our refineries and refining locally. Only for the GMB and NPC to tell us that it didn't matter because we are really not going to be spending money.
Well, so basically what we are saying is that the advantages that the NNPCL has access to should also be made available, should be shared with other major importers in this case now.
Exactly, that's what we're saying.
So whether it's by Forex or it's by the crude buyback, that's the swap deal?
You know, the swap deal, according to information, has to end anyways.
Okay.
Because that's also fraught with a lot of corruption. There's no accountability as far as that project is concerned. But ultimately, if more people are given licenses to begin to bring in fuel into the country, it means that we also have to allow them have equal access to forex at official rates, the way the NNPC has access to it. So unfortunately, would that happen? Can we guarantee that?
All right, thank you very much, FUAD. More details of that story on page 25 of the Punch newspaper. Now, above the masthead of the Punch newspaper. Well, that's interesting. All right. Well, above the masthead of the Punch newspaper, I have here Senate queries Accountant General over 910 billion naira MDA's loan. I'm curious a bit though, because we've had, about about four accountants general in the past 6 months.
In 1 year.
and here I don't know, this Madei was appointed just how many weeks ago, how many months ago?
Government is a continuum, so
okay, so it's the office that's been probed, not the person.
Queried, yeah, not the person. Yeah, it's the office now that's been queried.
Okay, it's unfortunate though. I can't find the story. It says here that it's supposed to be on page 37. However, unfortunately, it's not on page 37. I've been trying to get a hold of the story, the actual story itself, but then it's somewhere in the Punch newspaper. All right. So moving on from that, 910 billion. That's interesting. Moving on from that, we also have here trapped funds. Foreign airlines plan meeting with federal government. That's another forex issue that still seems to be ongoing. The story is on page 38 of the Punch newspaper. And then we also have here OPEC raises Nigeria's output as Saudi Arabia cuts production. Okay, and that is on page 38 of the Punch newspaper. Very quickly, members and non-members of OPEC, that's Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, on Sunday agreed to cut crude oil production volumes in order to ensure global oil stability, but allowed Nigeria, Congo, and Angola to continue to produce maximally to their OPEC quota of 2023. However, Saudi Arabia, who happens to be a major oil producer and key member of OPEC, made an additional voluntary cut of 1 million barrels of oil per day as part of a deal struck hours after tense handling and all of that. What do you think about this? The cutting. I understand the reason why they're cutting, but allowing Nigeria to produce maximally. What are your thoughts as regards that? And can we meet up? Even because we've been struggling, even the quota that they've given us, we've been struggling to meet up with it. And now that the key members are cutting, and then they are still allowing us to continue to struggle. What are your thoughts?
Saudi Arabia is the big brother in OPEC.
Yes.
That's to tell you how efficient the oil sector in Saudi Arabia is. It voluntarily cut 1 million barrels per day from their quota. I don't have the official figures they produce in Saudi Arabia daily, their quota from OPEC, but I know it's way up there because they have consistently been able to meet their quota. I think the last time Nigeria was able to do over 2 million barrels per day was during the Obasanjo regime. In the last 8 years, I think the best we have been able to do is about 1.8 million barrels per day. In fact, the last report we had was that we dropped to less than 1 million barrels per day, which allowed Angola to be the highest producer.
Our highest was actually this year, February this year, 1.38.
Imagine 1.38. So that's far, behind from what we're able to do during the Obasanjo regime, which was around 2.2 million barrels per day. So what we are going to do basically is that, look, we only have to struggle to do maybe about 1 million, 1.2 million barrels per day, which in itself is a shortfall to what Nigeria should have been able to do. If you look at the quota that is allotted to us, again, it still goes back to the things we are not able to resolve in the oil sector, oil theft and all of that. Even if OMOMBOLA agreement has not helped in any way, we are still struggling to produce adequately as far as our quota in OPEC is concerned. So those are some of the issues, again, that we need to look into. But again, Saudi Arabia telling us that, look, if you do the right thing, you can be the big brother, well, stabilize the oil price globally. And that's what they are simply doing, so that there's a form of, when they cut quota, what they try to do is to ensure that, look, prices of oil in the world does not drop beyond the reasonable level. So they cut quota to allow other people to ramp it up and then stabilize the sector. So again, Saudi Arabia showing us how it's done. If you do it well, we're able to do the real big brother thing. And that's what they are doing.
Thank you very much, FUAD. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. We're looking through the major trending stories on the front pages of our dailies. We've been able to go through the major stories, but then just very quickly, we'll move on now to the Nation newspaper. The major headline on the front page of the Nation: subsidy, federal government okays action on TUC demands. We have riders here. Tripartite panel to work out modalities for palliatives implementation. Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
The thing is this. I think the position of the TUC, we are getting it from Dele Alake, who I say doesn't even hold any official position now. And if the TUC thinks the best way is to, negotiate salary increment for their members, well, that's fine. But I'm looking at the reality of what we have, whether any form of increment really will solve anything, Sandra. The reality is that, look, what increment are they going to expect from the government? That's at the federal government level, Sandra. What will also happen to state governments?
All right.
Who current salary regime, a lot of them are still owing. We have state government that are owing 8 months, 10 months. So if there's an increase,
we have state governors that are crying that they inherited debts, but that's a lot of we don't have so much time. Well, the key demands as mentioned is minimum wage increment and tax holiday for workers. Those are the key demands: minimum wage increase and tax holiday for workers. All right,
but government is looking for money.
Okay. Well, more details on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. That's the major story there. We've already discussed the rest, and we also have here Vanguard newspaper, still on subsidy, of course, still on subsidy. Major headline: subsidy, NLC shuns meeting with federal government, TUC 6 pay rise. Investments. Okay, no, we also have here why I sacked auxiliary as PMS boss. That's come from Oyo State Governor Makinde. Those are the major stories. Senate indicts AGF over failure to recover 910 billion naira short-term loan to MDAs. That's on page 8 of Vanguard. That's all we can take this morning. This is still Mainland 98.3 FM. It's been quite an interesting conversation thus far, but we'll take a short break and we'll be back by 8:40, where we'll discuss 2 or 3 major trending stories and open up the phone line for you to join in on the conversation. Stay with us. My name still remains OMOMBOLA Sandra.
Your whole world comes crashing down. Is look up. Assemble the team.
It's showtime!